Born John Thomas Clarke in March 1927 in Ballina, County Mayo, in O'Rahilly Street. Jackie, as he became known, would live his whole life on this street. Jackie was the eldest child of John Clarke and his American wife Loretta, who had two more children, Ian and Loretta. The Clarkes were a prosperous merchant family. Jackie's grandfather, John Gar Clarke, employed 50 people in his Ballina factory in the 1880s, manufacturing farming implements and coaches. Jackie's father established his first business in 1919. After his marriage to Loretta Gallagher, whom Jackie described as the brains behind the business, they expanded his barber and newsagent shop with a bakery, a milk pasteurising plant, an ice cream parlour, in addition to an auctioneering firm. It was little wonder that John earned the nickname Jack of the Seven Trades. John Clarke was a peace commissioner and an urban district councillor, and was considered by some the unofficial mayor of Ballina. He was a well-travelled man, having visited the US and Germany in the 1930s. During the Second World War, Jackie's family adopted a German refugee, Helene Kuhl from Cologne. This little girl was brought to Ireland as part of Operation Shamrock. Helene remained living in Ireland and married an Irishman. During the war, though still only a teenager, Jackie became aware of press censorship and how it affected the reporting of news and Irish current affairs. Ireland had only recently emerged from both the War of Independence and the subsequent Civil War. Born just after those tumultuous years, young Jackie Clarke was eager to learn more about those who had fought for their freedom and independence. He began to assemble a scrapbook collection and his own library of Irish history. While attending Blackrock College as a boarder, his interest in the Easter Rising led him to write to activists seeking information, autographs and memorabilia. He also started up a magazine with his friends. In later years, he would recall how he would scheme off rugby matches, head into Dublin city centre and browse through the old bookshops along the quays. In 1941, Jackie contacted the Irish Book Bureau, owned by Joe Clarke. The friendship which developed between them was to become one of the most significant of Jackie's life. Joe Clarke was a survivor of the Battle of Mount Street Bridge, which took place during the Easter Rising. Jackie asked Joe Clarke to advise him on which books to read, and whether there were any clubs which boys interested in Irish history could join. Joe Clarke urged him to set up his own club. When Jackie left secondary school in Dublin, aged 18, he returned to Ballina, where in 1945 he was established in a fish shop on Connolly Street. He built up a successful trade, and in the 1950s was one of the pioneers of the smoked salmon industry, establishing an international trade which today continues as a family business. This success enabled him to continue adding to his collection over the next 50 years. He was also continuously recording Ireland's memory for his own and future generations, both in documents and images. His father brought him a cine camera from America in the early 1950s, with which Jackie collated an impressive film archive capturing historic events undocumented anywhere else. As a result of his father's premature death in 1956, Jackie took a seat on the Urban District Council. Jackie had joined Sinn Féin in 1949 and was co-opted onto the council as Sinn Féin councillor. In 1965, Jackie met Carlow woman Anastasia Smith, known as Anne, who had come to Ballina to work in Powers, a local bookmakers. Her temporary stay in town was extended, much to the delight of her landlord, Jackie Clarke. The couple were engaged in August 1965 and were married that October. They had 5 sons, John, Joe, Dara, Kevin and Peter. Continuing his education was of paramount importance to Jackie. He was a member of a number of organisations promoting the Irish language. He would cycle to the Belmullet Gaeltacht to perfect his own spoken and written Irish. In the 1960s, he became involved with the Sinn Féin Education Committee. He took courses in Irish history at the local vocational educational college. He was a founder member of the North Mayo Historical and Archaeological Society. Throughout his life, he was known locally for his politics and for being a successful businessman. He was recognised as someone who had assembled a comprehensive collection of material on Irish history. From time to time, he exhibited material from his collection in Ballina. When in the 1990s, he finally obtained an original copy of the 1916 proclamation, he considered this to be his holy grail. Dealers unable to sell items to Irish institutions would offer them instead to Jackie Clarke, before finally tendering them to collectors abroad, keenly aware of Jackie's desire to keep all such material in Ireland for the Irish people. Jackie pledged his collection to the people of his hometown in 1996, with the sole proviso that a suitable home be found for it. Sadly, he died before this could be arranged. His wife Anne knew both how important and how vast the collection was. It could be found in every room in her house. She opened her doors in 2005, 5 years after Jackie's death, and so began the process of listing everything that was stored in box after box, on tabletops, in bookcases, and stacked from floor to ceiling. As each box was opened and each parcel unwrapped, treasure after treasure was revealed in the form of rare books, manuscripts, photographs, legal papers, pamphlets, handbills, newspapers, autograph books, news sheets, circulars, reports, letters, periodicals, cartoons, maps, minute books, theses, articles and proclamations. In 2007, Mayo County Council purchased a landmark building, the former Provincial Bank in Ballina, on the main street of the town, to house this outstanding collection. Serendipity played its part in the choice of this building, as 30 years previously, in 1977, in his role as chairman of the North Mayo Historical Society, Jackie had approached the bank with the view to using the building as a museum, an idea that never reached fruition. Today you can view treasures from the collection in this beautiful building. You can learn more about the man behind the collection, scan through some of his newspapers, flick through his posters, read some of his books, find your town on one of his maps, and continue Jackie's work of collecting Ireland's memories by adding your own. We hope you'll enjoy your visit.